Record. Got it. Great. Perfect. Okay. Well, we are recording this presentation, so it will appear on Facebook. I wanted to start our event tonight with just a shout out to Sean Caston's family and letting them know that they're in our prayers and our thoughts. And we certainly do appreciate all that he does for our district, and we're sharing our sadness with them tonight. The purpose of this event tonight is the result of a conversation that our Indivisible DuPage leadership team had, or sort of an ongoing conversation about capturing the narrative away from the reactionary right. And there are many different areas in which that's extremely important. But one that seems to be particularly important these days is the issue of crime and public safety. And we want to have our own narrative rather than one that is reactive to disinformation that we're all subjected to. So Erica, you want to go to the slide of our presenters? So we welcome tonight Ina Yu and Shannon Moran Goodrich from Moms Demand Action, the Elmhurst chapter. Katrina, is it Baugh? Well, anyway, it's got to be one of those.
Yeah, the second one. You got it.
Katrina Baugh, welcome, from the People's Lobby. And then one of our most favorite activists in DuPage is Pop Murray from the Bloomingdale Township, for all the work that he does on behalf of 708 mental health boards. So certainly there are many different aspects of the issue of crime and public safety and remedies. And these were three that we thought would be really important to cover. So now why don't we have Margaret share her screen on crime statistics in DuPage, and she'll give us a brief overview of what the facts are with respect to crime statistics in our county. There you get. Can you do that? Here, I'll take care of it. So people are
First, I'm unmuting
in.
myself. Sorry about that. And now I'm going to share my screen.
Okay, great. So we had decided when we were preparing this meeting, as I said, that it would be good to see what the statistics actually are, so that we're not, we're not just responding again to the kinds of things that are out there in the ether regarding crime.
Okay, so why is this not starting the slideshow?
Oh no.
Well, hopefully my screen is big enough. I really only have 3 slides that I really want to share. And what I wanted to say was this information actually comes, it's not so much crime statistics, but it's really community trends in DuPage. There is a group called Impact DuPage who put together various pieces of information about the county so that it could help policy leaders make decisions. And it started as a result of the healthcare bill. So what I wanted to show is that the violent crime rate, now this is from 2014 to 2016, but what I really wanted to show was here is the downward trend, and we continue to see that downward trend in violent crime. Although the narrative, certainly by the DuPage County Sheriff, is quite the opposite. My recent interaction with Sheriff Mendrick indicated that there definitely is a need to protect the DuPage County bubble against our vicious neighbors to the east. His words, not mine. The interesting thing about this is, so here's violent crime, but here's a little subsection of domestic violence. And here we see that trend from 2015 to 2020, where it peaks a little bit in 17 and then starts to level off. But you can see 2020 is almost at the same level as the peak at 2017. This is actually a slide that indicates the rate of ER visits by adolescents and adolescent suicide. And again, it's the focus of where our public safety is focused, what the actuality is. So what we're hearing is the narrative of this violent situation, but clearly we can see that trend is going down. On the other hand,
Margaret, sorry to interrupt, but I don't think you're sharing your screen.
oh, I'm sorry. Hang on one second. So is that a
I have such a bad connection. I thought maybe it was just me.
Host disabled participant screen sharing? What does that mean?
Oh.
Try it again. I opened participants.
Okay, is that better? Am I getting that now?
Yeah.
There we go.
I just made you a co-host.
There you
I had
go.
made you a co-host.
There we go.
Yes. Okay,
I'm
great.
so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I think I made you a
notice.
co-host and then you logged back in and I didn't redo it. So, okay.
For some reason, I can't get this to work as a slideshow, but what I was, hopefully by my words, you are understanding what I was trying to achieve here by these 3 slides, which is the narrative around public safety. And just to give you an idea of the dollars that are spent around public safety, it's about 12% of the DuPage County budget, which is, I'll give you that number, but I'm going to have to move it over to another screen. You'd be surprised how large that budget is, but we around this area around public safety. But as you can see, the narrative is about, like I said, Sheriff Mendrick's description of protecting the DuPage bubble from our vicious neighbors to the east. But what we're seeing is violent crime going down. And the other things that are happening is domestic violence is starting to taper up. And along with that, we also have a trend also heading up with ER visits among adolescents due to suicide or some sort of self-inflicted injury. So the point is that we're not really sure if there's a comprehensive idea about what public safety is about, at least in terms of how it's being addressed in DuPage County by the current administration. So I wanted to just share with you some, I just had some budget numbers, but it's a pretty meager spreadsheet, so I don't want to share my awful work, but let me just. So the total budget of the DuPage County is $474 million, of which 56 million about 12% is actually for public safety. And that includes a variety of things among, it can be the 911, it can be K9, it can be victims assistance. All of those things fall into the public safety banner. So, like I said, one of the things I wanted to just share was that just that difference in the narrative versus really what the numbers are showing in a community impact study.
So we have this file, we can share it with everyone after the meeting.
Correct.
So we can do that. Okay, well, thank you for that. And now what I would like to do is to begin our panel discussion with our distinguished panelists who we introduced earlier. So why don't we begin? We have a number of questions which we have shared with the panel beforehand. So we're going to do a little round robin with the first three questions. And Ina, if you want to share your slides, certainly feel free to do so. So our first question is for all the panelists, and we'll start with Ina and Shannon. Describe the work you do, the work of your organization, and how you got involved in this work. So we'll start with Ina.
Okay, so I'm just going to share this really quick.
Sure.
So yes, my name is Ina Yu, and I'm one of the founding members of the Elmhurst local chapter for Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense, and I'm a former chair. And Shannon Goodrich, who is also on, she is the current chair and took up the position once I had to step down because I became a candidate for county board. So why I joined Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense is essentially because back in 2016, I was living in the city with my husband and my two boys who were at the time ages 3 and 6. And my husband said, you know what, I think we really need to get bulletproof backpacks for the boys. And it was because, there were reports of so many gun shootings and that kind of thing happening. And I was just kind of floored because I realized that was such a reactive response instead of being proactive. And I got really upset. And so that's when I decided to join Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense. And I went to my first meeting in Hyde Park. And it just so happened that, 6 or 7 months later, we decided to move to Elmhurst. And I really wanted to start a chapter here, a local group here, for convenience sake, because I didn't want to go all the way to Hyde Park or, LaGrange, for instance. And I thought that Elmhurst needed a local group as well. Shannon, do you want to talk about why you decided to join? Oh, you are muted.
Sorry about that. So yes, I'm Shannon Goodrich. I just took over the position of lead. Prior to the lead position, I was the membership lead under Ina. So I had a front row view of how everything was working, and I've been excited to take on this role. When I first joined Moms Demand, the very first meeting that I attended was about the school board in Elmhurst. And it was a wonderful panel that was put together by the Moms Demand group. The chief of police was there and a number of candidates for the school board. And I felt that it was very important to understand not only how they were planning on keeping our children safe across District 205, where I intend to send my children for high school, but also how they interacted with the school that my children attend, which is a Catholic school called Visitation in Elmhurst. And so I was able to speak one-on-one with people and get some information. And then from there, I was very impressed with the group and got more involved with writing postcards and making phone calls from home with the Gun Sense network that they have. So that's how I got involved. But I guess I would just say growing up in and around Chicago and then living in New York, going to college in the Bronx and in Brooklyn, I wanted to have not only empathy and understanding for, some of the statistics that I saw, but also compassion, and also, find some solutions to do something instead of just watching and complaining.
Yeah. And I think the question also included what is Moms Demand Action Flow? So if you would allow me to just go forward, the whole reason why Moms Demand Action exists is because every day 100 Americans are killed with guns. That's actually one of the statistics that floors me all the time. And what is Moms Demand Action? We're the nation's largest gun violence prevention organization with over 8 million supporters at this time. And after Uvalde, we had a huge influx of people who wanted to join Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense. In Illinois alone, we had 13,000 more member volunteers who joined all the chapters in our state. So Moms Demand Action was created by Shannon Watts in 2012 after the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. And we're comprised of mothers and others, dads, students, aunts, uncles, grandfathers, grandparents, teachers, survivors. And so we are very specific about saying that we are a gun safety organization. We are a gun violence prevention organization. We're not anti-gun, but we are anti-gun violence. And we do a whole bunch of things, a grassroots movement, fighting for these public safety measures by passing stronger gun laws, by closing loopholes, by working in our communities. And we really are trying to change the gun culture that's currently here in the United States. We are honoring survivors, and we partner with Every Town for Gun Safety, which is our research group. They're the ones that give us information, show us what strategies that are evidence-based, that are common sense, and life-saving policies, because that way we know that gun violence is preventable. And we take action in various different ways. I don't know if you want me to go through all of this. I know that the other candidates need to also speak, but the main thing is that we support gun laws at the local, state, and federal level that will save the most lives. And right now, our #1 priority, it has been passing background checks to make sure that people who shouldn't have guns don't get access to guns. And also passing a federal red flag law, which many of you may know that right now there's a bipartisan effort in the Senate, which includes federal red flag law. And we believe this is a true pivotal moment where we can really get something done. The other things that we really care about are safer gun storage. We have this education program called Be Smart, which we can talk about later if we have time, which really is about opening the dialogue to parents and caregivers and others to discuss secure storage of firearms to prevent not only gun suicides, but unintentional shootings by minor children, and also school-related incidents. And in 2019, we started focusing on supporting local allies around strategies that reduce homicides. That means including partnerships with organizations and people who are considered gun violence interrupters, and they work, at the community level. And then one of the last things is we elect gun sense candidates, of which I am also one, but we are trying to identify and support candidates up and down the ballot who will govern with gun safety in mind. So I'm going to stop my screen sharing and I'll let somebody else talk.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Katrina. Would you like me to restate the question, or are you good with it?
It's basically just introducing myself and saying how I got to the kind of work that I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, I'm Katrina. And I grew up in Hinsdale and have since lived in Wheaton for the last 10 years now. So lifelong DuPage. Hey. And I am here representing the People's Lobby. It's an organization that works around Chicagoland to organize people to support progressive policies, including things like gun violence prevention, and a lot of public safety things are at the forefront of what we're focusing on right now as well. I really came to care about issues around public safety and being in a position to organize people to kind of help push for these things because I was immediately after I graduated from Wheaton College, I started coaching debate teams in prisons. And so I spent a lot of time in prisons around the state of Illinois, including youth prisons here in DuPage County. And I didn't know that we held kids in prison in DuPage County until after I graduated from college, living my whole life here. And that alone is horrifying to me. But yeah, then meeting other people who are in prison and just having a very, very different perspective of, you know, the people who commit crimes in our society and getting to know them as friends and as my students, rather than just people that we exile into, you know, forgotten spaces that we literally don't talk about. So I'm now working with the People's Lobby to talk about common sense public safety, to help bring awareness to the people that we are holding in cages, including children. And yeah, really, really grateful that you all brought me here this evening.
Thank you. Okay, Pop, you're up.
Okay, I'm with a group called the Bloomingdale Township Mental Health Auxiliary, and we're kind of an outgrowth of the League of Women Voters. But also, and what we do is organize, what we're in the midst of right now is organizing community mental health boards across DuPage County. And we had interest outside of DuPage and Cook County. So we have actually a group in Wheeling that is now 2,200 signatures are going to be on the ballot in Wheeling Township, and in Schaumburg Township. They're going to have a referendum on the ballot. In DuPage, we're working on getting enough signatures in Addison and Lyle and Naperville Township. So we're hopeful we can have the opportunity to form boards in those communities, and that would bring up to five, the total number of boards in DuPage. And our group also then, besides organizing, provides oversight, specifically of the board in Bloomingdale. Initially, people were excited about getting a mental health board. They were actually thought it was unnecessary. I had several leaders tell me everything's taken care of. We don't need any more help. You know, they changed. When people see the need, though, they change. So now they're key supporters and campaigned on it in the last election. And then also, finally, we want to inform the community of what our community mental health boards do, and try and get the community to be engaged with the things that are available. I got involved because of a locus of things coming together. A dear friend of mine was a league issues expert for the League of Women Voters, and she had a beautiful young son, her and her husband. I was friends with both of them, and I hadn't seen him for a couple of years, and I said, well, how's JJ? You know, oh, JJ's not doing too good. And a lot of people, mental illness first appears between the ages of like 17 to 24. And this happened about 20 or 30 years ago. He has never been able to function in life. And that's part of the reason why she became involved with the league in mental health. Also, I remember canvassing in my neighborhood, talking with somebody who had a developmentally disabled child and said, what's the thing you're most worried about? He said, when I die, what's going to happen to my kid? And I made a promise. I said, we're going to take care of him. And that's what I'm fulfilling right now.
Thank you.
So that's how I'm involved, and that's what drives the passion.
Thank you. Okay, our next question, we'll start with Katrina. How do you address the defund the police argument in the larger context of public safety?
I think it makes perfect sense. I don't see the police as actually preventing crime. I think the things that promote safety are things like healthy, thriving communities where people are involved, where people have mental health boards, where they have their needs met, where they have access to resources and knowledge about how to access those resources. And so these are things that we can provide in our communities if we fund those things, if we fund social workers, if we fund social programs. So I think it's important to look at the idea of defunding the police, not just as that alone, but as what those funds are going to be reoriented toward. We have never been in a place where we wanted it. It's hard to ask the police to stop violence before it happens. That they really are supposed to respond after it's started. So we need to be doing things like what Ina is talking about and like what Pop is talking about, so that we stop the violence before it happens, and investing in those things is more important than investing in the reaction of a police officer coming to address the scene afterward.
Thank you. Next, what happened to me here? Pop, addressing, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
The police, of course, are our biggest supporters. They want to do exactly what Katrina said. And actually, they're the ones that first supported us in Bloomingdale, because they were aware of the failures in the system. Because the police and fire, about 70–80% of their calls are related to mental health issues and substance abuse issues and dysfunctional behavior. So we're lucky, at least in my community, we have a progressive police chief, and even in the other communities, maybe not quite as progressive, our police chief promotes community policing. So we assign an officer to each district. And like the chief says, I know when you get on your scooter every day, you know. So they're watching over us and trying to bring their police into the community. And to that end, that's why we have the social worker there. And while ideally, and I'll talk about this later, when the social worker has to go to work, it's a failure of the system beforehand, but the social worker is necessary at this time and serves really as the case manager. And as a matter of fact, our social worker reviews every case every day and calls each family or individual to make sure that they are okay and get the help they need. So I think what we want to do is look at the role of the police differently. And I think that word defund the police, of course, for those of us that don't have a progressive viewpoint, that's a lightning rod word, isn't it? They all talk about that. So I want to say, let's expand what we think of as policing to include the things that we want to do. That make sense?
Okay. Sure. Thank you. Ina or Shannon, I don't know what your time frame is.
Yeah, I can answer this question and then I may have to leave right after. So I'm just going to apologize in advance. I had to go to another meeting. But with regard to how do we respond to this defunding the police and what's really happening? So I know that there is an increasing trend of having social workers who are now on staff in police departments. And this is happening in municipalities and also at the county sheriff level. And certainly Sheriff Mendrick has realized the importance of social workers. And so I think that is the one thing that I'm like, okay, Sheriff Mendrick isn't so bad because he's actually doing this. So I am, because in every crisis situation, you're going to need social workers, you're going to need people who really understand systems and what resources are available. And it's becoming more apparent also that mental health is really a lot of reasons of, what's happening, underlying everything, right? And Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense doesn't have a specific stance with regard to defunding the police or, social workers or that kind of thing. But there's a common argument by, people who are arguing against gun safety laws, where they say we don't need laws. We need to stop demonizing law enforcement. We need to stop defunding the police. But those people who are saying these things, it's really hypocritical, because they say they stand with the police, but then the gun lobby then pushes permitless and open carry, where, people can just walk around with weapons, and they oppose common sense policies like background checks, which make law enforcement officers' jobs more difficult, and it doesn't protect law enforcement at all. So the main thing that Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense repeatedly states is that we want to keep guns out of the wrong hands and make police officers' jobs easier. So that's the response there.
Thank you. Okay, our last question to all the panelists is something that you've all alluded to, but we'll give you an opportunity to fill in any of the holes. What support systems are missing or underutilized in our communities regarding public safety? And we can start with Pop, and we know what he's what he's going to start to say, but please have at it.
First thing is, of course, access. There's 70,000 people in DuPage that don't have insurance. Okay, and then of course, how many people have high deductible insurance? So they really don't. They say like, well, I can't afford to go to the doctor, even though you have insurance. And then of course, it is, as we kind of implied, it is hard to even navigate the system because there are not enough case managers. And that, as Ina mentioned, that's a role that the police social workers frequently have to do, is to navigate the system. Specifically, though, to the question, I think one thing we absolutely need more of in DuPage is crisis care, because there's 12 beds. We got 1 million people. I don't know how many hospital beds we have, but I'm pretty sure it's more than 12. And if we need those accessible, and we need a variety of types of crisis care beds. Like NAMI has something called a living room in their headquarters, which is in Wheaton, okay, that you can go in if you need just kind of care that is not require an overnight stay. We need to put that throughout the county, because of course another critical crisis in our community is a lack of transportation. A lot of times people with these issues, they don't have access to cars because it's hard to hold a job down if you have a severe mental illness, and they need public transportation. Finally, I think we need to look at a comprehensive approach, and I'm proud to say that our Bloomingdale Township hired a wonderful person from downstate, Dr. Brenda Huber, and she did this in her community. She organized a comprehensive program for the youth in their area, and we're calling it a children's network, and we're starting as early as prenatal and postpartum. If you get on top of the problems early, our goal is to screen every kid every year up to age 21. You can eliminate, as mentioned earlier, a lot of the problems before they become so terrible that it requires intervention by the police. And there is a statistical evidence to show that this works. There's an article on mass shootings, and because there are communities that have like this kind of wraparound service approach, and if the community makes a commitment to that, it can keep people on the right track and keep them from becoming real threats to themselves and society. I I think that as far as underutilized services, every agency right now has a waiting list, especially in prime time. So if you call the county right now, I think they're up about 4 to 6 weeks. Okay. Northeast DuPage Youth and Family Services, which handles a lot of things in our area. She said this is the biggest waiting list they've ever had. I know our township youth department, they have a waiting list. So that's another reason why we need to catch things earlier, because when we catch them earlier, then it becomes less of a problem and we can devote more time to the people that have the severe need.
Okay, thank you. Now we have a question kind of tailored to each of the panelists, and we'll start with Katrina. We wonder about the rehabilitation programs that you have become familiar with in our prison system in the county, and the level of their success, and what your hopes are. And we said wish list, but maybe that's too strong a word. But what would you like to see, and what do you think is lacking?
Yes, I will start by saying very clearly that I am a Christian and I love Jesus. And I'm about to be very, very critical of the church. So I just want, because the church is running DuPage County Jail. So the criticism that I'm about to offer comes from a place of caring about the church and not just being angry about the church. But yeah, DuPage County Jail does not run its own programming. They outsource everything to a nonprofit organization called Just of DuPage. It is a Christian nonprofit organization that takes over, it fills up the time for people who are imprisoned there. So a lot of the programming that happens is religious, which, like I said, not a bad thing. But I think the harm comes that so much of the Christian messaging that goes to the people in all of the programs that's then offered to them is that, we are all we need to reach the lowest point. We can't do any of this on our own. We are very, we are bad people. And it's something that if you believe in the gospel, you can maybe climb out of that and get to a better place, but not everyone that we hold in the DuPage County Jail is someone who believes in the gospel. So there's a lot of kind of self-hate and harmful messaging that comes through all of the programming that's there. There are some GED classes, there are some basic vocational classes. There is one class that is led by a COD professor. She teaches gardening. So there are some, there is a little bit of a variety of things that people can access, but the dominant messaging, the dominant programming is all religious and heavily conservatively Christian.
I'd like to ask you a question. Can I do that?
Yeah, Pop.
All right. I had a friend of mine that taught at the St. Charles Youth Center when that was open. Okay. History. And he said that about 80 to 90% of the young people that were housed there were functionally illiterate, that they really, I'm wondering if that's your experience when you talk with them or work with them, that they're very challenged educationally.
Yes, lack of education is one of the primary determinants for people ending up in the criminal legal system. So a lot of people just need GED classes. There are often long wait lists for that when you're in the jail, or a lot of people don't spend enough time in the jail to meaningfully make it through GED classes. That is in no way saying that we should hold people in jail for longer. We should just connect people to these services on the outside. But yeah, that is maybe the biggest commonality amongst people who end up there is a lack of education.
Okay, thank you. We can probably come back to some of this a little bit later. And Pop, you're up next here. The question we have for you, excuse me, because of your access to information regarding efforts in providing mental health services across the state, you probably have been exposed to different communities that may or may not have high levels of mental health care. And can you share your observations about those communities that do a good job with mental health and those that don't, vis-a-vis public safety issues?
Yeah, I became aware that I'm going to kind of go off Katrina's statement of the role of mental health specifically in the criminal justice system at the first gathering of state mental health boards. And Champaign works with their sheriff's department, and anytime somebody is released, they're released in with the knowledge of and the oversight of the Champaign Mental Health Board. So she jokingly said that now the sheriff calls when they see somebody that is acting out again, that they get to call even before the police and say, we think this guy's off his meds or whatever. You better, did he go to his last appointment? Did he do this and do that? And the sheriff said that had really happened because really in every community, the locus falls around a limited number of families. It might seem incredible to think of, but like it's usually there's usually a repeated calls to certain families, and that's why providing the comprehensive services to those families can really change things. Every mental health board, of course, is based on the services available in their community. So downstate is totally different, whereas we have a multitude of nonprofits and services to choose from. In downstate, there might only be 3 or 4 or one psychiatrist for an entire county. Of course, those counties are a lot of times the same size as our townships, but some of the communities that really do an outstanding job are Oak Park. They make sure that all of their developmentally DD children, when they age out of the school system, they have something to do when they turn 21. They don't just sit home. And all too frequently, our developmentally disabled children, once they age out of the school system, a lot of parents don't know what to do with them, and maybe they have to give up their job even. And that would be one area. There's something called the priority of urgency of needs waiting list, and that's about 7 years in Illinois. We do fund, of course, and other communities fund like all of the basic needs, like homelessness. We help with medication, and that's something that Oak Park does very well. And there is such a variety of grants too, that is another thing that makes each mental health board unique. Like in Bloomingdale, we actually purchase positions. We funded 8 full-time social workers from groups like our police departments, from the Islamic charities, from our community mental health board. Other communities take a different approach. They might fund fees for services. So, and I think a balance is what's good. Proviso West has a wonderful program, and Lyons Township would be other ones. And of course, substance abuse is always a big issue. I'm proud to say in Bloomingdale, we do fund a clinic, or we did fund a clinic. It's now self-supporting, that does outpatient treatment for drugs. And then the other area that we're working on that, and the other allies that we always have are educators, because all schools are way, way understaffed. The social workers in the schools, by the time they do the IEPs, the plannings, and the many variety of tasks that they have to do, they don't have time to do counseling. So, and a lot of times school or after school is the best place for that to take place for a family. And I do have hopes that that's going to change. Actually, we've been working with the Glen Ellen schools to bring in outside counselors, which will work with a telehealth. And then the kids that can't be helped by telehealth, they would go with more conventional therapy. So I didn't say that very coherently. I apologize for that. But the reason why I didn't is because there's such variety and because the need is so great. Oh.
Okay, thank you. So now for Shannon, if you could, we hear all the time, you know, the phrase common sense gun laws, and given your commitment to Moms Demand Action, we would love to hear a good comprehensive definition of what common sense gun laws are.
Sure, sure. So thanks so much for the question. What's interesting is, of course, these laws are evolving, and in this week, almost on a daily basis. So what we would like to think of a common sense gun law is something that everyone could agree that just makes sense, meaning both sides of the aisle could come together and say, this makes sense. This is common sense. Let's raise the age limit to 21. Let's make sure that there's a federal background check, which 90% of Americans agree makes sense. That is a common sense gun law. These are a couple of things. Red flag laws exist in Illinois today, but not across the rest of the country. And actually, we found out through a speaker for the DuPage Department of Health that DuPage actually utilizes red flag laws more than any other county in Illinois. And that's because of the education that we have around this legislation. So I think, you know, these laws are a component. Education is another key component, and then upholding them. So, for example, Moms Demand Action in Illinois was instrumental in ensuring that ghost guns, which are those that are produced by, you know, a 3D printer essentially in a closet or in a basement, and can actually fire and fire gun, you know, bullets and kill people. People can now be prosecuted in Illinois for up to 5 years if they have just created one, even if they didn't shoot anybody. If they are found creating these ghost guns, they can be prosecuted for this. So those are examples of common sense laws that the majority of us agree upon. We want to make sure that, you know, guns are registered. The Aurora shooting from several years back now reminds us that that particular shooter, their FOID card, which is what we have in Illinois for your registration, had expired. And therefore, the police department should have gone and taken or revoked that gun, or, you know, asked him to renew the license if he had been, you know, considered at that point. that is so difficult to implement today because the police don't have the education or the resources to necessarily go door to door and, you know, do all of these things. So part of it is creating these gun sense laws, then educating not only the public, but the police and those who have to carry out the mission of what does this law mean now that it's intact. So it's multi-level, and you know, it starts at a state level, but the federal level is really what we need, particularly in Illinois, because we are surrounded by states that have very loose gun laws. And therefore, many of those guns are coming into our state. There's, you know, Governor Pritzker had recently mentioned in 2017, there was a study done that 20% of the guns that were utilized in violent crimes were not from the state of Illinois. Some were, you know, legally bought in Indiana. Others were shipped in, you know, from a gun show in St. Louis. So it's a very interesting study. But I think, you know, kind of going back to what Katrina was saying earlier about the jail, just reminded me so much of kind of why this movement has begun. I too am a very prayerful person, but thoughts and prayers are not enough. People do respond to laws and legality, and if they are going to go to jail, they might think twice. Their mental health, people will say, you know, those people don't care. They, you know, they're not able to make coherent decisions. That's definitely an aspect. And as we've talked about, there's certainly a need right here in DuPage County. Suicide is hugely, it is really the biggest issue with guns in our county and in our state. And I think that the important thing is that, you know, we have solutions for these particular problems specific to our community. And a lot of these things we can all rally around together. And a lot of that happens at the voting box, as well as educating with backpack mail to parents of how to store, you know, their guns, and, you know, just to make sure you're asking questions, even if you don't have guns in your own home, asking if other people, if other parents that they're having play dates with, if your child is of age to babysit, if the people who own that home have a gun. So some of it is done through legislation, some of it is done through conversation, and they're all very important, not one more important than the other.
Thank you. I would like to ask one follow-up on the common sense issue, which is your take on what has been included, or what we understand is included in the bill that's currently in the Senate.
Right. So, so my understanding is that it could be evolving, you know, as we're going, you know, through this, but that they would be raising the age limit to 21. And, you know, we think that that's positive, but we're not sure if it goes strong enough. So I have two different articles that I'm reading, to be honest with you, that are explaining what's exactly in the bill. So I don't know if it goes far enough, but anything that could bring us together, both sides of the aisle, to do any type of reform is a start. And we will take that as a success, even if it's, you know, simply raising the age limit.
Okay, thank you. If you do have links to those articles, if you want to share them with us, either now in the chat or later,
Okay.
we can share them with everyone. I think that
Yeah,
would
sure.
be helpful.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, so we've heard a lot of information from you guys, and I have to say that I really appreciate your connecting with each other in a lot of your responses. That's really helpful for us to get a a larger picture of all the different aspects of this, complicated topic. We know that public safety is complex and it encompasses many aspects of our community life. Is there anything else related to public safety that you would want to address that hasn't yet been covered? And we'll just see if anybody has something. Shannon?
Yes, so just in general, one of the things that I've learned through going to various tabling events or the new member meetings that we've had, or just general meetings, is making sure that we meet people where they are. So whether that's physically being at that location or being in a space that they consider to be safe, whether that's a particular group that they're a part of. I found that to be very important, whether that's a library or if there's a group that are looking to have us chat with them that are all brought together because they are physicians of Indian descent. And so we want to make sure that the messaging that we are sharing in this public safety is meeting those people physically where they are, but also in their language. It sounds very basic, but it's not. And so we have language specifically on our Be Smart Safety program that's in Spanish. And we did an event, a resource event, where people could come and pick up school supplies. And I think more people took the Spanish documents than we had in the English. And we had one person, thankfully, who could speak Spanish fluently. I can understand it, but I'm not fluent in Spanish. And they were able to have a conversation in a way that I could not have had. And so we have a number of volunteers who are Spanish speaking, but we've also had a request for Hindi, Polish, and other languages. So those are things that I think seem very basic, but it's quite important to speak to people not only in their language, but in a context that is accurate and makes sense.
Thank you. Katrina or Pop, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, there's a wonderful best-selling book out right now on community mental health by Thomas Insel, who was head of the National Institute of Mental Health for 20 years. And when he retired, and he's quoted in our Legal Women Voters study, and he talks about people, purpose, and place. That is critical, that even though we've made great advances medically in treating mental illness as well as many other diseases, that community aspect is equally as important. So I'm fortunate. I live in an old neighborhood with sidewalks and a front porch and homes with no air conditioning, So I do know the people across the street. I know the people behind me. I know the people on each side. But I think for a lot of people, it's very easy to just pull into your garage and pull into your house and not really be aware of what is going on around you. So I encourage everybody to make sure that they reach out and know the people, at least in front of them, behind them, and at each side. Because if we remember way back at Sandy Hook, the woman that was the mother of the son that committed that horrible disease, even though she was in a very wealthy community, she was isolated and her son was isolated. And I remember at that time, neighbors saying, like, if we would have known, we would have gone over, we would have helped her, we would have, So I would encourage all of us to reach out and do that. And it is hard to do that, It does take a bit of intentionality.
Mm-hmm.
I second that. Knock on your next door neighbor's door.
Right.
Yes, Pop. There is one other thing that I want to add. so sorry that I haven't mentioned it before. I'm a little surprised none of us did. It's in my mind the most impactful part actually of our criminal legal system, and that is anti-blackness. So I'm going to just share one quick PowerPoint slide. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's incredible.
Yeah. So the overall
Oh.
Black population of Illinois is 14%. The Black population of DuPage County is only 5%. There are a lot of historical reasons for that, and they definitely include legal housing discrimination, as well as violent gangs of white people chasing out Black families. And then just the reentrenchment of wealth in communities, people staying here, like myself, born here, and then continue to benefit from generational wealth. And then, yeah, the jump from the Black population of DuPage to the Black population of DuPage County Jail, I think is the most shocking. This is because, honestly, Black people are discriminated against at every point of the criminal legal system. They are more likely to be stopped by the police, more likely to be arrested upon that encounter, more likely to be taken to jail, to be sentenced to longer times, to be charged with more aggravated sentences, to be like at every single piece of the criminal legal system you can imagine Black people are discriminated against. And so it ends up in this really, really dramatic kind of disparity. Once again,
What's the origin of that? Can you share that with Flo? Where you is that a DuPage County statistic from the county website?
that is not from the county website. It is from the Chicago, okay. So this is a breakdown of all of the races in DuPage County and then in DuPage County Jail. This is from the Chicago Appleseed Fund. So the left-hand side is provided by the county. This was a snapshot of a single day in the summer of 2021. I believe it was June 30th. So it was just like, who is in the jail today? And so that is what the racial breakdown looked like at the time. So DuPage County stats and then interpretation of DuPage County Jail publicly shared stats. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow, that is extreme. Thank you for sharing that. Our last question is really the activist question, which is, what can we all do to become involved in the efforts that you guys are involved in? I know the simple answer is join Moms Demand Action and so on. But do you have other insights? I'm sure you do, about what kinds of things we all can do. And I'll just give you a little example. When Pop was talking about getting to know your neighbors, I was thinking we haven't had a block party in a very long time in our neighborhood, but somebody across the street decided she was going to instigate one, and it's in September, so we have plenty of time to plan it. So maybe it's an opportunity for me to think about what kinds of conversations to promote regarding the issues of our mental health and our sense of community. so that, we can invite people from, the village government or, to be part of it. So everyone knows what kind of services there are. So what other ideas do you guys have for that?
Well, I got a lot of specific things, of course.
All right.
Thursday, Will County is going to actually be voting to put a referendum on the ballot at their county board meeting, thanks to Rachel Ventura. I'm hoping some groups from Moms for Mental Health that I happen to meet on Sunday are going to be there. But hey, the more people that you can get to stiffen up the courage of our political leaders, because they're always apprehensive to even suggest the possibility that investing in our commonwealth, a word that we don't hear very often, could improve all of our lives. And that's at 9:30 at the Joliet. I will be signing up and talking about some of the things that we did in Bloomingdale Township and encouraging them to put it on the ballot so we can continue to discuss it. We also have a Facebook page, Mental Health Boards for DuPage. If you like rock music, on Thursday night, I'm going to be at Addison at their Rockin' in the Park. And I'll be collecting signatures. We actually have a booth. They do allow you to have booths. It is a political booth, but I want to assure you that this is a nonpartisan issue. And most people recognize that. It's just that, so we stand in front of the booth, and I refer to myself as a carnival barker. Join me, and because we do, hopefully, we got 80 signatures last week and 100 the week before. And then we also have events going on in Naperville and Lisle. And you can go to our Facebook page or Advocates for 708. We have a wonderful webpage that you can contact to go and get petitions. If you get 10 signatures from your neighbors, that makes a huge difference, because even the tiniest thing gets us closer to our goal. And we don't have that much time. We have like 5 or 6 weeks about left. So I got all sorts of things. If anyone's bored, see me.
Okay, thank you. Shannon, where are there other chapters of Moms Demand Action in DuPage? Do you know?
Just Naperville. There was previously a Glen Ellen group that has been that is still kind of posting stuff, but they're not a full chapter. So it's really just Elmhurst and Naperville. And it's interesting. We've been getting a number of people someone from Clarendon Hills, Downers Grove, and they've been saying, we want to start a chapter here. And I reminded them that it's a lot of work to start a chapter, and it's a long-term commitment. So what we've done is a couple of those groups, I said, let's do an event, in your town, and let's do a couple of other things, but we can help you, make it happen, and then you can bring everybody. And so we just did that in Downers Grove, and we're happy to do that in other towns in DuPage. And we partnered with the Naperville group, an event that we did at a local college safety event. So we all partner and we all talk, which is a good thing.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think you were asking what else can we do as local community members and other things. I think that all the suggestions that have been put forth are fantastic. I also think just reading is really important. Now that sounds like funny, but it's really important to get a different perspective outside of what is being posted in the algorithm that you're seeing every day or in the people that you talk to make sure that you're getting kind of an opposing view to hear, what other people say. So I would just say making sure that you're getting suggestions about your reading from other perspectives or from the library or opposing groups is always a good thing to make sure that you can carry on a conversation with somebody at a diner or any other place that has a completely opposing view without it coming to blows. Katrina, you talked about debate and just being able to prep your folks who you work with. We should be able to do that on a daily basis with people who have a different perspective. It's the only way that we can really support one another and come together as a community.
Thank you. Katrina, do you have anything to add?
Yes. First, I will say something that I'm super, super excited about. Just like a PSA, I guess, not directly related to the work I'm doing, but more related to POPs. 988, it's coming soon. The emergency mental health line. It should be launched July 16th. So when you're, knocking on your neighbors' doors and meeting new people and having kind conversations, even with people who disagree with you, sharing that piece of information with them, I think is a really important one. So starting July 16th, instead of calling 911 with mental health crises, if you call 988, you'll actually get mental health responders, which is just like a total game changer. We're moving toward a better world. Yeah. And and then
Katrina, sorry, is that DuPage? Is that for DuPage specifically?
I believe it's all of Illinois.
Okay, because I thought because Chicago has something similar, I think, but maybe so it's all of Illinois. Okay.
They have three.
Maybe
they
they're
have
combining.
311.
One. Right.
That's more for like just general information about if you have no idea where to go for anything.
Yeah, no, there's also one for like somebody that's dealing with homelessness but anyway, so this is all Illinois. That's great.
Yeah.
It's right even, but this has been the goal to do this. And this is something that mental health boards can fund the local services for. So.
Totally. And this is all connected in that if people in crises are being met with counselors instead of police, we're going to have less people in the jail, which works toward the world that I'm working toward. On another really practical level, I would just say, hey, I want to knock on your door. If anything that I've said resonates with you, please reach out to me. My email is katrina@thepeopleslobbyusa.org. And whether you are here physically or you are watching the recording afterward, please don't hesitate to send me an email. I'd love to talk about how we can be promoting rehabilitation in the DuPage County Jail and public safety more generally across DuPage.
Okay, we'll make panelists' emails available if you would consent to that, and then you might get some business. Orland is cooked. Linda, you had a question about this south suburbs?
Yeah, I realize I'm in Cook County. I've lived in the south suburbs since I was 15. Grew up in the city and for the first 15 years in like Beverly and Morgan Park area.
Yeah.
But have lived, like I said, since I've been 15 in many south suburbs. I suppose I could answer my own question because I worked at an alternative school for the state of Illinois a long time ago. And I was working also with the South Suburban Council on Alcoholism and Substance Abuse. I got my coaching certificate, and like you, Katrina, I wanted to coach prisoners, but coaching or teaching the kids in the alternative school was close enough, and it was a cool experience. I just wondered if any of you had any ideas of where to start. You all have wonderful ideas, and you're so organized. It's
Yeah, maybe Pop, do you have any knowledge of the south suburbs?
Well, I think like reaching out and working with individuals is especially rewarding. While I'm doing community organizing, probably the most rewarding experiences I've had, and something that's greatly needed now, is working with refugees. A lot of them have been traumatized, and we are blessed to have so many people from all around the world that visit us. And I volunteered with a group called Exodus World Service, which is not only a Christian group, and they would pair you up with a refugee family and a program that they call New Neighbors. And it's a program with a beginning, middle, and end. But I've found that many of those people remain parts of my life forever.
Is that Access World Service?
Exodus, like the biblical book, EXODUS, and they're in Park Ridge. And then, of course, specifically in regards to NAMI DuPage, and there is a NAMI, I'm sure in LaGrange, I don't know the name.
Yeah,
but
that's what Shannon said.
They rely on the expertise of people like yourself. And with your training, you could, I'm sure, work directly with people that are in need. And
Yeah, I'm not that far from LaGrange, really. I mean, my daughter and I go there, and
Lyons Township, Ron Melka is in charge there, and he's the president of our association of Illinois. And he is so knowledgeable. If you call him, believe me, you will find rewarding opportunities. They have drug abuse programs, so many different things that your knowledge would be purposeful. One of the things I like to do as an old person, I like to get up every morning, and I got a hunch that well, Flo, you're not really old. I think I'm older than you, but I like to get up every morning and think like I have something important to do. Maybe it's only important to me, and I don't include golf in that. And or sweeping the floor,
my golfing
So
days are over.
Yeah, I gotta do that. I gotta go to the Will County board meetings. That's important, So
Will County too. Have any of you been associated with the restorative justice program?
I've heard of that, and I would say that would be, I don't know about it, but yes.
Well, I worked years ago, and then the money wasn't there, and then they poof went the program. So
do you mean the hubs around Cook County that divert certain people between the ages of 18 and 24 with nonviolent crimes into a restorative court instead of
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, I'm very familiar with it.
That's in Cook County. Maybe you guys can connect offline and
Sure.
Yeah. So Katrina, do you want to put your email in the chat? That would be great. And Pop also, and also Shannon, and then people can copy it. Okay. Well, this has just been a phenomenal discussion. I can't thank you guys enough for all this information and your commitment to this important work. We're hoping that Linda Callis, yay Linda, has a connection that will enable us to do something pretty interesting. I don't know how many of you have heard of the truth sandwich concept, but Linda can give us a little background, and hopefully we can, She won't freeze.
Yeah,
and-
hopefully that I won't disappear. The first thing I'm going to do is enter something in the chat so you have some links. Let's see if it's going to work for me. Hold on.
So while she's, are you doing it?
It's not, I'm trying to. I don't know why it's not. There we
Okay.
go. Okay.
Oh, great.
I have copied it. I've copied that in there like 20 times since I've been getting it out. So anyway, now it's there. So the truth sandwich, really quick. The idea behind it is to try to counter disinformation or misinformation. I won't go into what that all means on social media, but also in conversations. And the idea behind it is a sandwich. So you start with trying to find a shared value with people. So Shannon, you were talking about meeting people where they are. So the idea is that there should be things that we all value and try to come up with kind of a theme that says, yeah, this is a value. And then point out where people are either lying and maybe have a motivation to not share the truth, or maybe, you still hearing me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. So, or maybe they will, so sometimes it's just being totally untruthful, and sometimes it's more disingenuous that they're skewing things to scare people because they want to be reelected or whatever. And then whoever we'll call it the bad guy. So it's kind of the value of the villain, and then there's a vision. So at the end, you kind of talk about what it would be great to have. And the idea is hopefully to get people, you're not going to necessarily change minds, but hopefully to get people think a little differently. And if you get in the practice of doing that, it might be helpful. Like we've done some role playing to try to do it in actual conversations, which of course is harder. So we have, so I belong to a group called Truth Brigade Illinois, which is an offshoot of a Truth Brigade national group that tries to post these things a lot, depending on what they're seeing as the biggest disinformation. In Illinois, we have some workshops about every 6 weeks, and then we have a bigger meeting with speakers. But every other Friday now during the summer, we have what we call Truth Brigade or Truth Sandwich Shop, which you'll see in what I put in the chat. And in there, it's a much more loose thing where we meet at 11 o'clock and we try to come up with truth sandwiches. What are we seeing people posting that are just wrong, or lying or skewing things, and how can we counter that? The idea is never to react to a post because we don't want to give it air. So we create our own. So I'm just going to share my screen and having not any idea I had some idea, obviously, what you guys were going to talk about, but I prepared one in advance with my group. I'm going to go to that one. Okay. So this is a truth sandwich. I'll go through it. That could be Facebook. Twitter is always more difficult because you are limited. But here's one that we came up with. So this is the value. We all want to feel safe in our neighborhoods.
We can't see. Oh, here, is this it? Whoops.
Is it there?
Yep, it was just delayed.
Can you see it? Okay, good. Yeah, that's good.
No,
So
these
my-
these are the links that you put in the chat.
No, that should be in the chat. Are you seeing my screen?
Here it is. Oh, now,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
Okay,
now.
wow, that took a long time. Okay, so this is a Facebook one, and already as I'm reading it, I would probably change it a little bit, but we all want to feel safe in our own neighborhoods, and I would probably change it to our own community, maybe. When crime seems to be increasing, why do politicians immediately call for, I would say, having more police? The safest answer to get them reelected, you have to ask if they really care about finding a solution or just want to get elected. So again, this could be worded more, but the idea is to say that, that's always the solution. Is that really the best solution? And why are they always just going in that direction? Is it because that's the safe answer that'll get them elected? And then the vision is us coming together and push for real solutions to a very complicated issue. So that's the idea behind a sandwich. And for the Twitter one, somebody that I work on this with came up with a smaller one that says, we all want to feel safe in our neighborhoods. When crime seems to be increasing, why do the elected the elected demand more police? Do they care about finding a solution or just reelection? We need real solutions to a complicated issue. So this is, and usually when we do a post, you'll see there's a article. We try to find something that talks about the issue. So in this case, I found an article that looks at, does adding police really reduce crime? And it's kind of a mixed message. It's a mixed, when you look at the statistics, it's kind of mixed. But the idea is that that's not the only thing you need to think about. So that's what we're trying to get. And the idea is to hopefully get people's attention by sharing a value that we all have. So this is one that we'll probably post over the next couple of days. And again, on Fridays, we have this shop where we just, come together and play with wording and try to find some stuff that we can post. So it's pretty little, but it's actually fairly impactful because the national group has 36 million, at least on Twitter, they have 36 million views of the things that they posted over the last 2 years. So it does get out there.
Okay, well, thank you. And you have the link to the next Truth Brigade, the Truth Sandwich Shop.
Which is Friday.
Which is Friday. And we do publicize those events in our newsletter. So I would like to thank everyone for coming. We will post this on Facebook. And also, thank you all for the work that you do and the commitment that you have made. And with that, I will bid you all a cool good night.
Thank you, Flo, for your work.